I made it, guys. I'm here. All right. This is Kelli Stewart, and I am going to do this live stream to the best of my ability right now. So, thanks for your patience, guys. I have been under the weather, so I needed to take a shower and clean myself up. And as most of you have probably learned by now, this is not my profession, doing live streams. So I'm usually unprepared and a little bit disorganized when I'm trying to be on a certain schedule. I did get my dishes done tonight and had dinner with my family, so that's the biggest, that was the biggest goal there. And then I had to also take a shower because that was very important. So I think we'll start this out with Lisa Bundy giving a brief message. I'm just going to wait until I see her come on. Let's see if she comes on. We can try to pull her in, but I don't see her yet. So as soon as Lisa comes on, Gavin, if about halfway through this, maybe in the next 15 minutes, you want to pop in, that would be good. This is definitely information that we want to get out. We want to use all of the different networking circles that we have to try and get some truth out. And so Gavin, you're definitely a big piece in that and helping to get out the message. So Lisa just texted me that she was ready, but I don't see her on here yet, so I'll send her a quick message to tell her, yes, we are ready for her. And then we'll go right into the topics about court. Let's see, we are ready and waiting. I don't see her on there yet. So, while we wait for Lisa, I guess I can just say there are always going to be different opinions with different courtroom observers, attorneys, media. There's always going to be a different maybe take on how things went. A lot of good things are happening in the courtroom, and so we definitely want to make sure that that's pointed out, that there's a lot of corruption within the federal government right now that is being exposed. Part of the problem, though, is it's not really being exposed to the public. And so that's going to be the topic of our video tonight. I'm going to go ahead and read this while we wait for Lisa. Lisa, Lisa, where art thou? In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy trial, over 600 days, it's not speedy, by the way, and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusations. Sorry, now my computer froze. Let's see. Now it completely lost where I was at. So the main topic, I guess, of tonight is discussing a public trial and why this is so important. I'm going to turn off my wall heater because it's kind of loud, so hang on just a quick second for me, if you guys will. Hopefully I don't knock my tripod over. All right. I am in sweatpants, so sorry if you guys can see that, but I live in sweatpants here at home, especially when I'm sick. Okay, so I don't see Lisa popping on, and she just texted right before I went live, so I'm just going to totally get started, and then when she wants to come in, she can. Okay, why is a public trial so important? A public trial is important, especially when you have the government taking you to court, like in the federal case of the Bundys. It's important because the government is accountable to the people, or it is supposed to be accountable to the people. And when hearings are sealed, there's supposed to be very specific reasons that a hearing would be sealed. And it's not just available for the judge at any whim because she wants to hide something from the public to make a proceeding sealed. And yet that's what we've seen time and time again. It feels like more of this trial in Las Vegas, Nevada with the Bunkerville trial surrounding the Bundys. Most of it has been sealed. And I know that in the day and age we live in, we're kind of in this place where we hear it sealed and we're like, oh, it must have been really important information. I can't wait till people come out and we can learn what the results were. Like, we don't even stop to say, hey, why was this sealed? There better be really, really good cause for that hearing to have been sealed. Especially when you're talking about the prosecutorial misconduct like we are right now in Vegas. There is so much misconduct going on in the courtroom that that they're actually having to seal hearings just to protect the government. And so at the end of today's sealed hearing, it was an open court hearing and then it went sealed, there was a whole lot of different opinions about what was going on. Us as supporters hear what's going on and we say this is really good that the truth is starting to come out in the courtroom. And that's how we felt during the morning before the hearing became sealed. And while we were waiting for the news of whatever went on in the sealed hearing, we were just really happy that that the legal teams, Ammon's legal team, stayed up till 2:30 in the morning writing new motions. I swear that is all they have done this entire month or month and a half, is just write motions. Most of the attorneys have been doing the same thing, but some new motions were written this morning at the wee hours of the morning. And they come in and they present them to the judge, and the judge is frustrated. She's frustrated with the prosecution. She's saying, you know, there's all this exculpatory evidence that you've been withholding, which is evidence that essentially could have potentially exonerated the defense. And that's a violation. You can't do that. And so we're hearing this and we're saying, you know, hey, this is really good. We're really glad this stuff is coming out. And then they go to dive into the next layer and it's sealed. And that's really the topic of what most of what Ammon and I discussed earlier today, and a few of the attorneys, was the fact that what the public is seeing, it isn't even a fraction of what is truly going on in these sealed hearings. Now, one statement that Ammon made that I'm going to quote for him about things he can discuss. Ammon said that he gave his word that he would not violate the court's requests. When he said that, he wouldn't violate the court's request in regards to discussing information from sealed hearings or discovery. He didn't sign his agreement to get out of jail because he acknowledged the authority of the federal government. He signed the agreements because he wants to get out of jail and be with his family and fight his case. So he literally said, with a gun to his head, he signed, and he is going to uphold his agreement, which is that he will not release anything sealed or anything in discovery to anybody outside of his legal team. And he is going to honor that. But one thing he did say is that there is a tremendous amount of misconduct being kept from the people, that we, the people, are allowed to demand from the courts. We are allowed to demand the courts follow the laws relating to what they can and they cannot seal. This isn't about personal information. This isn't about protecting anybody's safety. There's a lot of areas here that they are not willing to be held accountable to, and the judge is literally protecting them right now. So people were asking today, sorry if I keep wiping my nose, I've been sick. People have been asking, is the judge turning over a new leaf? Is she just starting to favor the defense? I would say, from my own personal opinion, absolutely not. These attorneys are holding her feet to the fire and filing more motions than she can respond to. There's a whole list of motions she hasn't even responded to. Motions that should have absolutely made this case dismissible. The case is dismissible. It should have been dismissed with prejudice. And instead, she just continues answering these motions and slapping the hands of the prosecution and saying, oh, shame on you, you better get them that information. But she really hasn't taken that final step of saying, I'm dismissing this entire case. And so in the conversations that she had today, she made statements about a mistrial. And Brett Whipple came out and he did an interview with some of the media, and he said he's moving for a full dismissal, and that's his stance, is he wants a dismissal by the time the jury comes back in next Wednesday. And that's great, and that's what we want. And there's grounds for that. We should all be celebrating. Ammon actually said today there aren't 7 Brady violations that the court has noted. There are over 20 Brady violations that the court has noted. And this means the case should be dismissed. The problem with her talking about a mistrial is it allows the government to continue saving face and to continue trying these individuals again and again and again. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part is all of the misconduct on the government that is being kept from the American people. This is something that we must demand stops now, today, that there would be no more sealed hearings outside of needing to protect somebody's individual personal safety, like their address or their medical record, their phone number, their children's names. These are all common things to seal in a court. It is not common to seal the things that they are sealing. Now again, Ammon cannot release to us what it is that they're sealing, but I will go through my really sloppy notes today that I took, because again, he wasn't trying to say what the people need to do. He was just making the point to let us know as the public that these sealed hearings are not legally sealed hearings. They don't have the grounds to be sealing them. And that's a concern of his, and it's a concern of all the attorneys, it's a concern of all the defendants, and it should be a concern of all of the public as they continue to learn of what's going on. They clearly do not want the truth to come out about what the government has been doing, but these defendants don't want a mistrial. If she declares a mistrial, it will be, well, to a small level. Let's talk about briefly what happened to Marcus Mumford down in Oregon after he and his legal team, Morgan Philpott and Rick Kerber, secured and fought for the not guilty verdict for Ammon Bundy last October, on the 27th of last year. He was trying to prove and ask the judge to show the papers that there was a hold on him for Nevada, and the hold didn't exist. The papers weren't there, and yet she was holding him anyway. And he wanted Ammon to be able to walk out of that courtroom because he was just found not guilty. And Nevada had not presented the papers that they needed to hold him. And in a conversation, literally, that he was having with the judge, multiple marshals came around, surrounded him, tackled him to the ground. Many of you saw that video. Ended up tasing him, arrested him, and he had to come back to a further court hearing. Now, in that court hearing, or maybe it was prior to the court hearing, he filed a motion for, in his discovery, he wanted all of the communications between the marshals because he wanted to prove the conspiracy, right? The government's always, they're always accusing us of conspiracy, which is so ironic because their whole life is a conspiracy in our federal government right now. So, especially directed towards the American people. And so Marcus Mumford turned it back on the courts, and he said he wanted discovery because he knew if he had all of the text messages and emails between all of the marshals who jumped him, tased him, and detained him, and then later arrested him, booked him, that he would be able to prove in his own trial over that. I think it was, I don't know if it was disorderly conduct and obstruction of justice they were charging with. But anyway, he would be able to prove that a conspiracy existed and that these marshals were planning on jumping him for a long time. So what did the court do? Does anybody remember what the court did after he requested that information be turned over? They dropped the charges on him. They dropped all the charges on him. So his was a full dismissal that he got. But what really happened when they dropped the charges? they were able to hide all of their misconduct. They were able to hide their conspiracy from the American people. Every one of those U.S. Marshals who tackled him that day were able to save face. Their names weren't plastered all over the media because of the discovery that was leaked about the things that they were very likely saying and doing behind the scenes the entire trial in Oregon against Marcus Mumford. So while a dismissal is good, a lot of times the government will use dismissals and mistrials to get out of their own wrongdoings. And that's exactly what is potentially about to happen in Nevada with this case. These defendants, they don't want a mistrial. They don't want to start with a new jury. They don't want to have to uncover more truth. They know that if they have to do this again, that Ryan Bundy will not be able to speak freely as he has been. Morgan Philpott will likely be removed from the team. Rick Kerber is getting ready to face his own trial for the 5th time in Utah. They know that they're buying time to get what they want in the end, which is a conviction. That's all they want in the end, is a conviction. So the worst thing that could happen right now in Nevada is if we go back in next Wednesday and the judge has declared a mistrial. And it will be really bad if the prosecution has made all of these errors and had great... Sorry, John was calling. He's supposed to come on, so if anybody's watching, can you text John and just tell him to come on the live stream with me? So with this mistrial, they will be able to take the wrongdoings and the misconduct of the government, and they will be able to pacify the American people, the supporters and the Bundys, by saying, you're right, we've really messed up. Let's just start this all over again. That would be a nightmare. All of the legal fees, all of the attorney fees, I don't remember what it was, I think it was like $150,000 was paid just to the jury consultants to come in and help them determine what kind of a jury. One other family member of another defendant told me that each attorney, court-appointed attorney, is being paid $90,000 just for this trial alone. Then you have the prosecution, their entire team, which is huge. It's like 7 or 8 people. All that money is gone, and they just literally start all over again. That is your tax-paying dollars hard at work in the federal justice system right now. When you have a federal judge that is able to see the direction that this trial is going and say, oh, you're right, this isn't going right, we're going to declare a mistrial, and then seal the hearings where all the misconduct is coming out, because she knows every one of these government agents involved would end up losing their jobs if this information was released. And who suffers in the end? Does the prosecution suffer? No. A mistrial would actually mean that Cliven would still be in jail. A mistrial would not mean that he is going to be automatically released from jail. He would have to go forward and have another release hearing or detention hearing. So while we hope that she grants what do we hope she grants? Well, we hope that she grants a full dismissal with prejudice. Some of the defendants are concerned that that's not the direction she's heading, and that she had multiple opportunities today to do that, and instead the government was begging for a week to respond to some of these motions, and instead of her right then and there declaring the mistrial or the dismissal with prejudice, she granted them an entire week. That's not a good sign. It's not a good sign at all. So there's a few things that I think personally, this is me speaking on my own now, needs to happen. One, I'm done with the sealed court proceedings. There's no reason this is sealed. I pulled up some information, and I'm not going to read it all tonight, but I pulled up some information on when is the normal standard time that you would seal a hearing. And as far as I can see, and the other defendants can see, and they can actually see what's being sealed, they're in these proceedings, there's nothing that's lining up. So for them to now be coming out and coming forward and saying, hey, these hearings shouldn't be sealed, they're not breaking any of their own restrictions that are on them. They're simply trying to hold the government accountable, which is what we as the people want to do as well. So let me So Miss Lisa wanted to say something, and she is not, I don't know, maybe she came back on and I missed her because I want to read some of these notes. There's multiple levels here of sealing going on. As was stated earlier on Brian Hyde's video, there's three things that are a little bit smaller, well, a lot smaller, that the prosecution has been caught lying in. They said for the last almost 3 trials now, hey, John, I'm going to pull you in, that there were not snipers. Defense proved there were. They said that the FBI was not involved in the cattle roundup, and the defense proved they were. And they were not surveilling the Bundy Ranch, which the defense proved they were. What Ammon is telling me is he says that, hey, John, I'm going to finish this thought real quick. He's basically said you cannot exaggerate enough what is actually being kept from the American people in these sealed court hearings. He said it's absolutely egregious and it must be exposed. And as I was thinking through that, I was thinking, whose responsibility is it to make sure that a public court hearing remains public? It's 100% up to Judge Navarro what she seals and what she doesn't seal. It is completely in her authority. So she is sealing these hearings, breaking her own laws in her own courtroom because it does not meet the standards for sealings. And so what we need to do as the public is we need to put positive pressure on the courts to follow the law, and we need to do that through the media. You and I being the media, John being the media. What we want to see happen is on the 20th, we want that court hearing to not be sealed. And it's only going to not be sealed if the public puts the proper pressure on the courts by contacting them, sending letters, letting their elected officials know what's going on tomorrow, not next week, tomorrow. And the goal in this would be that enough people would be realizing how much is in this sealed information that needs to be exposed, that there would be a public outcry, and that even those who oppose the Bundys would be coming out saying, I want to know what the courts are hiding. I want to know what the government is hiding. If a federal judge can seal the proceedings of the federal government's misconduct, and they're the only ones to investigate themselves, there's no public present, and there's gag orders put on everybody in the sealed hearing so they can't release what's going on, how are we the people supposed to hold the government accountable in a public courtroom? We can't. And that's where it falls on our shoulders as the public, because keep in mind, this could be you next. This could be your proceeding next, where everything's being sealed. And from what's being told to me by multiple sources down there in Nevada, the information has to come out. Even if we move into a full dismissal, there are so many jobs that should have been removed. There are people who should be facing charges themselves. And so it falls on the shoulders of we the people to say, I want to know what the misconduct is of my government officials. At the end of the day, regardless of what happens with the Bundys, they're still sitting in their high and elite place of office and in their positions ruling over the American people. So, hey, John, I'm sorry. I tried to call you earlier to give you a heads up.
No, that's okay. I was in a kind of a bad spot with no signal, so it took me a minute to drive to a spot here in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's okay. So what I was just talking to the people about is these sealed proceedings, and how the defendants are really frustrated that they can't discuss what's going on, and they've reviewed the information. They do not believe anything fits into the standard law that would allow her to seal these proceedings. And so as soon as we learn that as the public, I was trying to explain that it becomes our job to not just sit and complain about it, but to show up, to contact the judge's chambers by whatever means, phone numbers we have, and to say, we're asking you to follow the law, please. And we're asking you to unseal all of the past proceedings that didn't fit in the guidelines of sealing. We want the discovery unsealed. The defendants want their discovery unsealed. Their discovery is redacted. And all of this needs to be unsealed for full public disclosure. I'm going to go have a coughing fit. Can you talk for a minute, John?
Yeah, well, there's nothing at all in this whole trial that benefits the defense by having it sealed. The only thing that it benefits is the government, such as Lavoy Finicum's shooters that shot Lavoy Finicum. The names of those individuals are still sealed to this day and hidden from the public. We have the prosecution here. They're the only ones in this case that have anything to hide. The Bundys have been trying to bring it forth from day one. The Bundys want to talk about it. All these defendants, even Eric Parker and them, wanted to talk about what was actually in their discovery. It's been hidden from day one. The only ones to benefit from hiding this discovery is the prosecutors and the federal government. There's no one else at all that benefits. The defendants definitely do not benefit. We've talked about it over and over again. The defendants want this evidence out. They want this information out. It's only benefiting the prosecuting attorney because they're hiding the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we say they're hiding the truth, you know, we keep saying little things like, well, they're hiding some exculpatory evidence that possibly could have exonerated the defense. And they're hiding that there were snipers. Well, we knew there were snipers. So that's really not that big of information. When the defendants are saying, one defendant said earlier today, when I say that what's being hidden is like dynamite, I don't mean in the end that I'm going to light off a firecracker. Like, it's dynamite. It's huge. It goes all the way from Harry Reid. It goes all the way to the last administration up to the White House. And that's why this is being sealed. And that's why it should be such a big deal to the public that they're able to see this information, because regardless of what they think of the Bundys, if the misconduct from the government was exposed, how many other cases will this impact? How many of these people that have participated in this misconduct have reigned over other cases that other people are fighting right now in the court system?
Well, you're going to see that in the Schaefer Cox case for sure, 100%. You're going to see it in the case over there in Utah with this other gentleman that they just falsely charged. I can't think of his name right offhand. The guy in Utah is sitting in prison right now facing trial. Names are slipping my tongue right now because I've got so much on my mind. But all these people that are sitting in prison waiting on trial, all their stuff is redacted. All their stuff's being hidden. All this discovery is hidden from the public. Oh, Bill Keebler was the name. Bill Keebler, I've looked at a little bit more into his case. The people are not talking about it. The building that he was supposed to blow up, they said that he was going to blow up, was a cabin way up in the mountains that nobody was ever in. There was no public even in it. They set him up from day one. And he never even blew it up for one. He never even done any of this stuff, but they charged him with all these stuff. And then they redact all this discovery. They seal all this discovery from the public where we really don't know what happened with Bill Keebler. They're hiding it all. Yep. Bill Keebler's not hiding it. He's locked away in a dungeon, and he can't talk about his case. And his voice has been silenced. But the prosecutors, they have.
Because if we knew about it, the people wouldn't be saying, oh, good, you're holding that man in jail. They'd be doing much of what we've been doing since last year regarding the Bundys. People would be showing up, and they'd be saying, even just the people within the local ties to the arrest, the officers involved, some of the people on the legal teams in the courthouse. If all of this was being leaked out and people were being able to openly discuss this, they'd have to come back into work and go, this is madness. Why are we prosecuting this person? That nothing of what you're saying actually happened in the documents, but they sealed the documents.
In Bill Keebler's deal there was 4 informants out of 6 guys. So I don't know if they're counting Bill Keebler or not as being 6 or 7. You're talking about over half of the little group that he had going there, or whatever, however he was involved in it. 4 of them was working for the federal government against Bill Keebler. And, Bill was the only one arrested over there. So we got this same thing happening with Schaefer Cox. All these cases like this across the country. It's false pretense that they're entrapping these people, locking them up, setting up their best friends, setting up people around them to inform on them for money, or sometimes it's just so they don't get prosecuted themselves because they can't handle the pressure. So this is happening over and over again. Like Jerry DeLoomis. Jerry DeLoomis took a plea deal to save other people's lives, to save other people from being prosecuted. And this is the kind of thing we're seeing rampant across this country right now. And good people are going to prison because of it in secret courts.
Yeah. I think of Jeff Winehouse in his case. His whole shooting when he was shot by the police 3 times, twice in the head and once in the chest, it was all captured on his watch. And they wouldn't allow any of it to be admitted into evidence to be seen by the jury.
That video that he had, you know what happened to it at first? The highway patrolmen themselves went and threw it in a pond. This was recovered later on. His watch was, the police officers themselves threw that evidence away into a pond, and they did not know it was going to be recovered later and be able to be used. So after his trial, this was recovered. So Jeff Winehouse, he was shot multiple times, left for dead, and ended up surviving. And then they prosecuted him after he survived. And the evidence
prosecuted him for the crime.
They prosecuted him for the crime. And what happened is that GPS tracking device on that watch lasted a year even underwater. It was a high-tech watch. So he was able to tell people how to track it, and they went and found it on their own after the highway patrol threw it in a pond.
And none of that was allowed in with his appeal. His appeal was denied. How can you have evidence that can exonerate somebody and not allow it in? So other things that I'm hearing from a few other people on the ground in Nevada is that that there are some people trying to come forward and get some information out. And it's not very clear who it is, but I know they're connected to the prosecution, is what I was told from one family member, and that this information can't get out because the judge keeps sealing all of this information. So we have people literally wanting to come forward and show the misconduct of the government, but they're sealing it in these court hearings. And the worst atrocity that could happen right now is if she declares a mistrial. If she declares a mistrial, all of this goes away and they get to start over fresh and try to do it better the next time.
Well, behind the scenes, we know that people are being threatened. They're being threatened with their own life and their own family. We have other political prisoners that have gone through this already. We have other people, we have whistleblowers that are being threatened. They have lost their jobs over this, that the prosecution themselves have been hiding this stuff. And these other people that are working in the government are losing their jobs because they're wanting to come forward and tell the truth. And it's been exposed. The judge knows about it. They're trying to cover their tracks now. They've been doing it for the last couple of weeks by giving us bits and pieces of hope by letting more guys out of jail on pretrial release on an ankle monitor at home and things like that. When they know it's coming out, but they just don't want to shock the public too much and say, oh, we messed up big time. The government was found at fault here. They don't want that. They're trying to figure out another way around this.
Yep. You know, if they had waited until a mistrial was declared or a full dismissal to release them, it would have been a much bigger deal that they were being released. They wouldn't be able to release them with the ankle monitors. And so they literally are doing this in steps. We had the one person who leaked the information the day before that they were going to be released. I can't remember his name right now. He did the video or the audio on YouTube saying that a mistrial was declared and the Bundys were being released from jail. Now, while I appreciate he was getting some information out there, he didn't exactly do it correctly because he stated it in present tense as though it was happening right now. And as you know, you were there that day in court, you responded to him telling him that didn't happen today. There's some other things
I felt that some of them things were going to happen by observing, but this guy went ahead and he jumped the gun. He heard things that I didn't hear, but I felt that may going to happen, and he went ahead and publicized it.
Yeah, he publicized it, and to my understanding, there's no recourse or any consequence for him leaking this information. And some of the things he said about civil unrest definitely made it feel uncomfortable to me, because that's often what the government will do. You can know what they're planning next by what they start leaking out through some of their sources. And oftentimes these things happen and look like civil unrest, but they're really false flags that are actually generated by the government. And so some of those statements made me very uncomfortable. But based on his report and how things are looking, it very likely could end up being a mistrial. And so what I'm proposing to the American people is I'm hoping that at least 100 people will come and meet me at the courthouse next Wednesday on the 20th. I know it's the week before Christmas, and I know it's a lot to ask, but what we want to do is we want to be making calls all this week to the courthouse. We want to be letting them know that we do not approve of these sealed hearings. We do not approve of these secret courts. So we have every right to know what's going on. We have every right to know why they're moving towards a mistrial or a full dismissal. And then on Wednesday, the 20th, we have every right to walk into that courtroom and attend that hearing. Sealed hearings. We really have to get away from this idea that because it's sealed, that means we tuck down our heads and our tails and we crawl back to our corners and we wait for them to give us the information. There's nothing they're protecting in there in these sealed hearings other than themselves. And so what I'm asking is if people will meet me. I assume John will still be there on the 20th. If we could get at least 100 people down onto the steps of the federal courthouse in Las Vegas, Nevada. And what that's going to do is it's going to help us, of course, be peaceable. You know, we're not looking to be aggressive in any way, no different than what we did in Pahrump when we went down and protested at the jail. But what it does is it's our way of we the people to say no more. This is us saying no more. Now, what does it accomplish in the end? Well, we don't ever really know until we show up. We don't ever know until we speak out. But the goal would be that it would bring enough attention to have such a crowd down there ahead of time before the judge goes into that secret meeting, that maybe ahead of time they would realize that they're breaking the law and that they're breaking the Constitution by having these secret courts. But even if they don't make the right choice, at least we the people will be down there to be doing live streams and reporting on it and trying to gain attention from any of the media who will come and speak truth. I know it's very difficult for the media in Las Vegas, Nevada to be truthful. But if enough people show up, they will show up and cover the story. And so, John, did they announce what time the secret court hearing would be on the 20th?
It's going to be on the 20th at 8 a.m. in the morning. And we know, like this morning, we never know exactly what's going to happen. It was at 8 a.m. this morning. We was going to have court again. Judge Navarro didn't walk in till 9:15. So an hour and 15 minutes later, she walked into her own courtroom that we're all waiting for her. Yeah. So it may be late, but still, we need everybody down there at 7:30. Let's be down there. We can have signs. We can have all kinds of things prepared. And let them know. We can make phone calls beforehand. Let them know that we expect we the people to be in our own courtroom observing what's going on December the 20th. People can call in ahead of time, be polite. We never want to be out of hand. We just want to demand politely that this is the people's court and it's not a secret court. We live in America yet. Even if we have lost almost all of our rights, we want to be in that courtroom observing what's going on. And we want a full dismissal with prejudice. We
want a full dismissal with prejudice. And we also want all of the redacted information to be released. We want it unredacted. And we want these court proceedings we want the court proceedings, the docket, to be unsealed, because all these court proceedings, all the notes that go on the minutes, those are all sealed. The public has no idea. And so tonight's broadcast, if everybody's wondering, people who've just come on, it's to let you guys know that we have confirmation from the defendants that the information that's being sealed is bombshell, life-changing information within our federal government. It is information that has to get out, and it's only going to get out if the judge unseals the information, because the defendants cannot tell us what is in there. We know it goes all the way up to the White House. with the last administration. We know it's heavily tied into Harry Reid. Multiple people have said that, that have been involved in this. And so we need to make calls. After this is over, I'm going to go ahead and post in the top the phone number to the judge's chambers. Please be respectful. She's still a human being, even if she is in error and she is choosing to bid the work of Satan. We are still called to love her, even as we're calling her out for her shameful acts. But we need to call and simply let her know that she is operating outside of the authority that the people have given her. That's a tough one, because as a federal judge, we didn't even give her authority to be a federal judge. A federal judge is not accountable to the people. We can't, recall her. So it's a very precarious situation there. But at any rate, we're going to let her know that even the law states what can and can't be sealed, and that she's operating outside of the law, that we want these court proceedings to be unsealed, and that we do plan next Wednesday on the 20th of December to enter the federal courthouse and to attend the hearing, whatever hearing it is. There's nothing that needs to be protected from the people. And that's what we plan to do. But it really will be the most impactful. As any protests or rallies or events go, it is the most impactful when principled people show up. That's really what we need. When violent people show up, it doesn't ever go well. And when nobody shows up, it doesn't go well. So please bring your flags and your signs. We're calling for, you can make signs focused on the secret courts. Lisa is ready now. So as soon as I see her pop on, John, I'm going to bring her in. She wants to give a quick message to the people. And then if you're available, I'll pull you back in if there's anything more to say. But yes, so December 20th, 7:30 a.m. If you can be in Las Vegas, Nevada. This isn't just about the case now. This is actually about your courts and how they're being run, and information that you need to know about the FBI, about the BLM, and specifically about the prosecution and how they have intentionally held evidence outside of this case so that they can gain a conviction, knowing that they didn't have a case to start with. That's a really, really big deal. The FBI, the BLM, and these prosecutors cover thousands of different cases across this country. And so we need to make sure that we're holding them accountable. That is our job as the fourth branch of government, is to hold them accountable. And thank God that there's a way we can do that. We show up. And, within the courtroom, the attorneys file the motions. We show up outside of the courtroom to peaceably protest and to address these grievances with our government. And then we also expose what's going on through social media and through our little underground media that we have going on here. So if you guys will help us with that, if you can't come, will you try to support somebody else who can go? And then we also make the calls when we post the number first thing tomorrow morning, saying that you want to know what's going on in this courtroom, and that you're no longer going to settle for these docket redactions. You want everything that's going on in the courtroom to be public so that you can go back and read about it and hear what your federal government is doing on your tax dollars, because it is absolutely outside of anything you could possibly imagine. And if we can break this case open, we just might be able to get some accountability and some true justice within this case. If it just gets buried and tucked away, even if they dismiss the charges, those tyrants are still helping to run your country. And that's just not okay with me. You might not care, but you have children and possibly grandchildren that will have to live under these agencies. And so it's just time to open this up and to get some transparency going on. So, okay. So Lisa's going to come on now. Let me see if I see her on now yet. I don't know if you guys can see me when I do this. Okay, Lisa Bundy, invite. Okay, so we'll pull in Lisa. And I hope, I don't know, I had way more prepared, but I'm not organized, and I don't, I need a secretary is what I need, but that's a whole nother story. I'm getting over being sick. Okay, Lisa should be popping on any second. Come on, Lisa. If somebody out there knows her number, can you text her and say, Kelly invited you. She really wanted to give a quick message in closing. She was praying with Ammon and the kids. Praise God that he's out of jail, but he's not home, and he still is facing life in prison if this continues on. And so this isn't over yet. We still need to help the legal teams, Ammon's legal team. The legal team that's filing all these motions is not being paid outside of donations. And I know that they need help. So if you could go to bundydefense.com. Oh, no. Now Lisa's talking to Rick. So I think she just wanted to give a short message, but who is allowed to sit in the closed meetings? The only people allowed to sit in the closed meetings, Laura, is the attorneys, the defendants, the prosecution, the judge, the courtroom reporter, and her secretary. And then everybody in there is basically as a gag order. If it's sealed, they can't come out and tell the contents of what was sealed. They can't tell us exactly what it is that is sealed. But I continue being told it's a big enough deal what's being withheld from the American people that thank you, Bailey. It's okay, actually. She said she's talking to Rick now, so I'm just going to sign off. She can do another live stream. She's been so busy. Keep praying for these wives, you guys. Even as their husbands and loved ones are getting out of jail, they still carry such a huge burden, being single moms and wives of political prisoners, and it's a huge burden to bear. Ammon said today in his live stream that he did from the courthouse, when he gave an interview, somebody asked him if it's worth it, and he said, absolutely, it's worth it. This, it has to be worth it. You have to stand up for what's right. You can't back down, and you can't run from the fight just because the stakes are high. We have to get our federal government, we have to get our government back into the confines of the Constitution. If you can go to either the Ammon Bundy page and watch the video that was posted this week, by what authority are they acting on? That's a huge one. My whole family watched it yesterday morning together. And I sent it out to a lot of my family to ask people, will you just think for yourself about this whole idea of federal government? Should they be in your schools? Should they be in your health care? They use money to buy their way in, and they literally threaten the schools that if they don't use the curriculum they're offering, that they lose all their federal grants. I mean, blackmail is illegal, yet our government does it, and they use our money to blackmail all these different groups of people to do what they want so they can control our children, they can control our health care, our education. This issue of how far outside of the confines of the Constitution that the federal government is, it should scare the hell out of every one of you to the point of action. To the point of action, principled action. Whether that's you making phone calls or showing up. Okay, Lisa says 1 second. She does want to come on. So I'm going to do a presentation next week. I'm going to try to do it next week. And I'm going to try and help people understand why standing up for the Constitution on domestic soil is just as important as it is on foreign soil, because we have this really, really warped mindset about war and military and fighting for our rights. And we just think that it happens on foreign soil. And then when our veterans come home, or those who never even enlisted are here, we just kind of take it outside of the box of our responsibility, and we go, oh, I'm sure somebody's out there protecting my land rights. And so next week I'm going to try to put it together, but I am awful at preparing. If anybody out there wants to ever help me, Lindsay is my backbone, and she does so much to help me, and Holly and Barb, they do so much to help me. They're absolutely awesome. But anyway, I'm going to do a short presentation, and I'm going to ask you guys if you will share it with people who are really wrapped up in military, because those are actually the easiest people to convert, because they already believe in this idea of fighting or standing to protect their country, their land. And so it really shouldn't be that difficult to teach them and help them understand the idea of fighting for your property rights, because all you're doing really is taking the bigger land and you're shrinking it down now to your property, and you're looking at, okay, who's the enemy right now of my property rights? You get that we want to, defend out here to keep the United States of America safe from these supposed enemies who are going to come, and I don't know what they're going to come do to us. They're going to do something awful to us. They're going to make us slaves. So we want to fight them. We want to even go and invade their land. We even want to kill them and bomb their women and children because we're so afraid of these foreign lands coming and foreign enemies coming and taking us over. And then we stand on our own property and we say, well, I can't do anything here because the law told me I can't. And I can't defend it because the law told me I can't. Well, did any law tell our military that they can't go blow up other countries? I mean, I don't know about you, but I think those other countries probably have a law against outsiders coming in and blowing them up. But our military doesn't seem to care, right? Because they're protecting our land rights. They're protecting our country, supposedly. So anyway, I'm going to talk about that more next week, and then we'll see where we can go with that, and maybe you guys can get the message out there. Okay, Lisa, you got 2 minutes, girl. Or I'm going to sign off, but you have 200 people that want to hear from you. So come on, Lisa Bundy, I know you're listening. So I know it's not just property rights, Melina, but property rights applies to everything. That literally applies to your property, what's on your body. It applies to your vehicle. It applies to your children and your home. And I mean, if we could just grasp this understanding about what it means to defend your rights and help convert people from foreign and get them here to domestic, maybe we could start to clean up our own country, because it's kind of a mess in the area of freedoms if you haven't noticed. I think that would be something that would be really great. We just have to get our troops home fighting for us here and defending us here, and then we might actually get some freedoms back. Okay. Lisa's so fired. It's Brinkley's birthday. Happy birthday, Brinkley. And she got to celebrate last week with Ammon and the family, and that was awesome, and she was super happy, and I'm tired, and so I don't know. This has been a little long, but whoever uploads it and takes it, maybe you could edit out the beginning and the end for me and get it just to the basis of the secret courts, because that's a huge deal. The secret courts is a huge deal, and I'm telling you guys, it's huge what is being withheld in there. I just want you guys just to lay in bed tonight and just think about what, Gavin, if you want to come on, you can. I want you guys just to think about what it is that they're holding back right now. Let's see if I can find, there's Gavin. Let me invite him. You can just think about what it is they're holding back. How deep does this go? How far has the BLM and the FBI and these prosecutors, these government prosecutors, I mean, can you even imagine how much they're making each year to prosecute the American people? And they're hiding so much misconduct that they can't even let the public know what they're being caught in right now. It has to be sealed and protected from the American people. And so, you know, if a mistrial comes next week, you guys, it just can't happen. We can't have it. We can't start this whole thing all over again. And even if they do declare it, we need the information. We need our elected officials to get involved. We need our representatives to get involved. But more than that, we just need the people to show up. When the people unite, we really do have the power. When people unite like Martin Luther King did, and they stand together principled, and they refuse to give up or give in, and they're willing to deal with the consequences, things happen, things change in this country. And it's not, like Ammon has recently said in his video, it is not in the courts that things are going to change. The courts take away your rights. They don't give you your rights, especially in an overreaching government like we're dealing with today. And so if you guys care about this country and you wave an American flag, then that means that you support the idea of showing up, because our founding fathers showed up. Somebody said to me this week, actually, it was a police officer I was talking to, and he said, you know, well, we can't just go to war over everything. And we can't go and fight things just because we don't have rights on our property. And I asked him, he was also in the military, he was in the Navy, he was in the Navy, and I said, did you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution? He says, yes, absolutely. Do you support our founding fathers? Absolutely. Do you wave an American flag? Absolutely. Guess what? Your founding fathers went to war over property rights. They went to war over legislation without representation. They went to war over saying you're not going to tax my tea, you're not going to tax my paper, you're not going to confiscate my weapons. No, absolutely not. Those are things they went to war over. So, if you wave an American flag and you support the 4th of July, but you think that showing up to protest and hold your elected officials accountable is extreme, then I think you're kind of confused. I think we've been dumbed down and we don't really even understand what the 4th of July was about, because the 4th of July was not like beautiful fireworks going off in the sky and, the flag waving. It was about people dying for their freedom, because they were fighting for their freedom and totally refusing to quit and to give up at all costs. They said, we want our freedom. We're going to stand here. We're going to fight. And now we're to a place that, I'm not saying I want that extreme, but now we're to a place where we don't even show up to peaceably protest. We don't even show up to say, hey, I'm not okay with this. This is wrong. And I think there's so much that's wrong now. We're not even quite sure when to show up. So I get you guys on that. But anyway, okay. I'm going to sign off. Lisa will do a live stream later. Show up December 20th. We're going to be down there in front of the federal courthouse in Las Vegas, Nevada, 7:30 a.m. And we are going to be prepared to enter an unsealed court hearing. And we are going to be posting all week the phone numbers. Every time you see it, please call them. Let them know that we are not okay with secret courts. Google secret courts. Learn about the things that have gone on in secret courts. It is why there are thousands and thousands of people across our country that are rotting in prisons because of secret courts. And our founding fathers weren't okay with it. I'm not okay with it. So meet me in Las Vegas, Nevada, December 20th, 7:30 a.m. And we will get into that courtroom and we will witness a public hearing. So that's it. God bless you guys. Have a Merry Christmas.